canines, including a cadaver dog. Bombshell tonight. In the last hours, investigators execute a second warrant at the home. Then police take the search to a landfill. In a new twist, neighbors report the family dogs known to bark at strangers. Did they bark that night? At this hour, no one ruled out. Sex offenders within a 3-mile radius tracked down. Tonight, where is Isabel? We investigate the clues left behind.
It's a parent's worst nightmare.
The desperate search for 6-year-old Isabel.
Possible abduction.
Missing.
Vanished from her own bedroom in the middle of the night.
Where is she?
We're labeling it as suspicious circumstances.
Police confirm a window was open
and a screen was off.
She was not in her room at that point.
2 specially trained FBI dogs found something of interest.
The dogs did alert on a few things.
They have searched inside and outside every home in the neighborhood.
A landfill search.
The trash they were looking is strategically placed in the landfill that would come from this geographical area.
Checking every corner, every nook and cranny that could possibly hold a child.
Close to the child's home is this surveillance camera.
I'm unable to provide you specifics about whether or not we do in fact have any surveillance footage.
Family has been cooperating with us.
If you knew this family,
we're not ruling out anything in this investigation.
There's just no possible way that the family would have anything to do with this.
More and more time goes by, the girl has not been found.
And the clock continues to tick.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. I want to thank you for being with us. Bombshell tonight, live Tucson. Mom and Dad tuck 6-year-old Isabel into bed. Daddy checks on her 8 a.m. She's gone. In the last hours, investigators execute a second search warrant at the family home. Then police take the search to a landfill. We are live and taking your calls straight out to Paul Birmingham, News Director, KNST. Paul, why a landfill?
This is a landfill about 7 miles away. What investigators are hoping for is any piece of evidence at that landfill where trash was taken after Isabel had been reported missing. There was a Saturday pickup. They're hoping by going through that landfill, they may find something that they could have missed, possibly at the scene of the home or nearby. So they've been combing through. They continue to do so. A very hot, nasty, just terrible day to do it, nearly 100-degree temperatures. So it's been a long search at that landfill today, and it's continuing right now.
As you can see, the workers wearing moon suits so as not to contaminate evidence and to protect themselves as well. You are seeing fans being used right now. The crime scene unit there at the landfill. This landfill situated about 7 miles from Isabel's home. Paul Birmingham, News Director, KNST, you were telling me something about the timing of the trash pickup outside Isabel's home. Repeat.
That's correct. There is the belief that the trash may have been picked up after the time that she was reported missing, before that thorough, exhaustive search can be conducted near the home. So they're wanting to get in there and find any piece of evidence that they may have missed again at the crime scene at the home there.
You are taking an aerial look at Los Reales dump. It's a landfill. And there, in that landfill, is garbage from Isabel's neighborhood, reportedly picked up the morning she was found missing. There's the alley near the home. Take a look at where cops have been looking for clues. We are taking your calls, and joining me there at the Celis family home, Natisha Lance, live in Tucson. Natisha, it's been around 100 degrees today. The landfill search ongoing. What's happening?
Well, Nancy, just as Paul explained, that landfill search is supposed to continue, but there have been investigators at the home. They took down the crime scene tape early this morning, and the parents are now able to go back into the home. Now, police are saying at this point that they don't know when that will happen. They are preparing the parents to go back, but it is up to them as to when they will go back into the home. And again, Nancy, that search warrant that was executed ended about 1:30 this morning. Police did not reveal any information about what was taken or not taken during that search.
To Jean Casares, legal correspondent in session. Jean, what have you learned?
Well, first thing, we have just been able to confirm that no dogs have been taken out to that landfill. They're using manual techniques, sifting and searching through everything. And why have they not been taken out? They say there's so many odors that they just feel it would be too difficult. If they find something specific they want a dog to see if there is an alert on, they will bring a dog out.
And landfill searches have been successful in the past. We all remember the case of Lori Hacking. In that case, her body was found at the landfill. Of course, the Natalie Holloway case, there was a landfill search there. Many, many other landfill searches. Some have been successful, but it certainly takes us down a different road. Jean Casares, explain the significance of a landfill search at this juncture.
Well, let's face reality. This may be a missing persons case. This is also a homicide case. They're not saying it publicly, but when you're searching a landfill, yes, maybe you're trying to find something that the perpetrator threw away that could have his DNA on it. But for all practical purposes, you're looking for a body.
We are taking your calls, and we understand that police searched the family home. Everyone, all of you know by now, the screen removed from Isabel's window, found below the window, her window opened that evening. We know also that police searched the home, the family out of the home, while police searched the home. Take a look at these possible entrance and exit routes of a kidnapper. Look at that window. How would you get up to that window without a ladder of some sort? Extremely tall. Windows open, screens removed. Take a look at those windows in the back. Jean Casares, I understand only one screen was removed. Is that correct?
I think you're right, Nancy. You know, this brings back memories of Elizabeth Smart, and I learned at that trial in Utah that after Elizabeth and Brian David Mitchell were in the mountains, he wanted to kidnap her cousin, went to the window, got his screen off, but you know what they found, Nancy, at the scene when they went there? He wasn't successful. They found a ladder. They found a chair. They found something that he was stepping up on to get that window screen off.
So it can be done. To Ellie Justad, I still keep trying to get an answer, and I can't get an answer. We were told the parents put Isabel to sleep that night. Mm-hmm. Which parent? Did both parents carry her into her room and put her to sleep, or one parent? The next morning, we know the mother left around 7:30 a.m. for her job as a pediatric nurse, as I recall. Right. The father checks on her at 8 a.m. Mm-hmm. Did the mother check on her before she left? Why can't I get answers to those simple questions?
Yeah, that is a question that has been repeatedly asked to Tucson police, and they say that there are certain details in the investigation. Specifically, did mom go into that bedroom before 8 a.m. that they just aren't going to answer right now. So we are still trying to find that out, Nancy.
And to you, Paul Birmingham, KNST, where are the parents? Where are Mr. and Miss Celis? Have they made public pleas for their daughter's return?
They actually did make a statement yesterday that was released through the police saying they appreciate everyone's interest and essentially they love their daughter and they will never give up trying to find her. As far as their whereabouts right now, that is unknown, unknown to me at least, though we do know that they are being allowed back to the home today with that execution of the second search warrant wrapping up very early this morning.
Well, what I don't understand, Paul, is why a public plea has not been made on camera.
That's an excellent question. We have seen that written statement that, again, was released through the Tucson PD, but we've not seen any appearance on camera. A little bit odd in this case.
Well, it may be that they're so distraught that they cannot speak, but I think that it would be extremely helpful with me right now. And as you recall, her daughter abducted and murdered. Erin Runyon is with us, founder of the Joyful Child Foundation at thejoyfulchild.org. I recall distinctly covering the kidnap of your daughter and your public plea. And when I think of the gold standard for parents, I think of you and Mark Class and how you did everything right to find Samantha. I remember it all like it was yesterday. In fact, I believe I was on the Larry King show. I can't remember the night that you were on. And I will never forget it. I remember the poster that you said Samantha had up and how she could outrun anybody. Remember that story you told when you were trying to explain to her how to behave if a stranger approached her? Do you remember that?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we had talked about what to do if somebody approached her. She was very worried about it. She had been to a stranger danger assembly, and so she had asked questions about what to do if somebody approached her or tried to hurt her. I wish I had known then what I know now.
Erin, what was it that she said about she could outrun anyone? Do you remember that? I remember your words struck me when you said that. And imagining the two of you, and now I never knew that I would have my twins. And I really don't know how to talk to them about strangers that could hurt them because I don't want them to have to think about that. But they do have to think about that.
Yeah, you know, and I think that when we talk with our children, we can do it in a way that isn't scary. You know, we teach them all about other types of safety, fire, earthquakes, tornadoes. And I think if you incorporate personal safety in that conversation, you can do it in a way that isn't terrifying. You know, if somebody came in your room, throw something down, make all the noise that you possibly can. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children did a study of over 400 cases of children who escaped abductions. And in over 80% of those cases, it was a child's physical resistance that enabled their escape. So I think empowering children with realistic options and things that they can do to get away from somebody is really a critical gift.
Everyone with me and taking your calls, Erin Runyon. Erin, would you advise the parents in this case to make a public plea for the return of their daughter?
I would. You know, in our case, the law enforcement agency was really wonderful about communicating with us about the transitions that they were making as the case progressed. And one of those, I'll never forget it, the public information officer coming in and telling me, you know, I didn't have to make a public plea, but that getting the public's help in sending in leads and tips was really critical, and making my daughter real for people was my job, that I could be that face for her and that voice for her. And so he told me that I could go out and make the statement, and if we wouldn't accept any questions. If anybody did, he'd just pull me back in. So he was very protective of me and gave me a safe space to do that, and made it possible for me to do that.
I think that it could make a difference in this case. And to you, Jean Casares, why are there going to be cops at the family home 24/7?
Well, they feel the family may need security. So that is why they're going to do this. But they've also confirmed today that there were 3 types of dogs that appear to have visited that home. From the Department of Corrections, an odor dog, FBI, direct offer, offender odor, following a perpetrator, and victory recovery dog, better known as a cadaver dog.
He is guilty, 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 guilty. Someone has taken all of this away from me, and everyone else loves her.
I hope they get you, and I hope they make you pay.
And the search is on for this little girl.
Isabel Mercedes Celis, 6-year-old girl.
May have been snatched from her bedroom.
There's a wall all the way around that house.
We haven't heard whether the door was locked or unlocked.
There was a screen that was removed from a window to the residence.
Suspicious circumstances.
This could be an abduction. It may not be an abduction.
They are not ruling anything out, including homicide.
We are just devastated by this.
It's a residential area, but we're bordered by businesses on 2 sides.
Here we have buildings as well as open desert area. When you're dealing with such a small child,
a 6-year-old girl in Arizona,
there could be innumerable places where they could be hidden or where evidence could be found.
We are live and taking your calls. The search of the family home goes into the wee hours of the night till nearly 2 a.m. The family out of the home while police go back with a second warrant to search the home. This as the search also moves to this landfill. Here's footage we're showing you in the search for little Isabel. That is a sinister turn in the search for the girl, many holding out hope that she has been kidnapped. We are taking your calls. Joining me right now, in addition to Erin Runyon, Roger Winkler is with us. He's the retired captain, Salt Lake City PD. He headed the landfill search for Lori Hacking, a successful landfill search. What are they up against, Roger?
Well, ma'am, they have a tremendous amount of work in front of them. They've got a lot of debris probably to go through, and depending on how much was deposited, they could have quite a large search area that they have to go through and make sure that they look for the evidence that they're searching for.
The temperature up around 100 degrees this afternoon, Roger Winkler, in that area. But also, you've got to be so meticulous. Isn't it true, Roger, that you guys didn't find Lori Hacking's body in the traditional sense? You found, for instance, some hair. You found portions of her body.
Yes, that's correct. We did not find her completely intact, although we did find a significant portion of her in one area. But they can be that type of search that you can be looking for multiple pieces of evidence.
We are learning at this hour police will not reveal what the dog hit on in the house, which is very disturbing. Also, Jane, they will not answer our questions as to the timeline.
No, you're right, Nancy. But if there is one thing you have taught me, Nancy Grace, it is devil is in the details. And let's look at this fact. There are 3 dogs, one being a cadaver dog. All 3 dogs provided information.
Bedroom.
My heart is breaking. Isabel Mercedes Celis. Little Isa, as many call her.
Dear Isa,
6 years old and abducted.
we will find you.
Her mother is beside herself, as anybody else would be.
6-year-old Isabel Mercedes Celis was tucked into bed by her parents.
She was gone the next morning.
Searching the home where a 6-year-old girl vanished. A possible entry point into Isabel's bedroom.
We have a window that was open and a screen removed.
Still no sign of Isabel, and the clock continues to tick.
We are taking your calls out to Natisha Lance, standing by there at the Celis family home. How high up is her window off the ground, Natisha?
You know, Nancy, we couldn't get close enough to see right under that window, but I would say it's about 6 feet. There is a wall that is butted up right up against the house, and there is a lot of foot traffic in this area. There are tons of commercial buildings, tons of commercial businesses around the area, and there is an alleyway also behind the neighborhood, which there's numerous dumpsters, numerous businesses that are over there. So there are numerous people who could have had access to the neighborhood.
We are taking your calls, but now we are joined by C.W. Jensen, retired Portland police captain, as well as Roger Winkler. He headed the landfill search for Lori Hacking. Roger, I saw it looked like tractors going through the landfill, Roger Winkler. Aren't they afraid that they will destroy evidence?
Well, that certainly can happen using the heavy equipment in the landfill, but the normal operation when they receive debris into the landfill is to actually move it around, usually with dozers or front end loaders or that size or that type of equipment, and then actually.
Oh, I see. Yes, I understand. They're at the Los Reales landfill. They will be lifting up large quantities of trash, then sifting through it. To C.W. Jensen, retired Portland police captain. C.W., what did you make of the fact that they already had one warrant to search the home, then they got a second warrant to search the home? Why would they need a second warrant?
Perhaps if the first warrant didn't cover an area that they ultimately felt they needed to find as well. It depends on how the wording of your warrant. It's very, very specific to get that. And people might be curious why, if the parents probably said go ahead and search, they had to get a warrant to protect themselves.
Friends and family and coworkers have all come together to pass out flyers and getting word of mouth out.
We have a window that was open and the screen removed. We're labeling it as suspicious circumstances.
Arizona FBI trained dogs are searching the home where a 6-year-old girl vanished over the weekend.
But over 140 law enforcement officers with multiple agencies are on the lookout, along with hundreds in the community.
Isabel's bedroom as a possible point of entry in that home.
We're still trying to determine where Isabel is and bring her home safely.
Isabel's parents were questioned all night long.
She was checked on at about 8 o'clock when her father went in to wake her up.
We had 2 separate dogs come in.
Despite countless tips and a recanvass of the area, still no sign of Isabel. It's a parent's worst nightmare.
The desperate search for 6-year-old Isabel.
Possible abduction.
Missing.
Vanished from her own bedroom in the middle of the night. Where is she?
We're labeling it as suspicious circumstances.
Police confirm a window.
Where is 6-year-old Isabel Celis, nicknamed Isa? We are taking your calls out to Chris in Ohio. Hi, Chris. What's your question?
Hi, Nancy. It's such an honor to be talking with you. Thank you so much for everything you do. I'm wondering, we know that they're searching the landfill. Do we know, was it a special garbage pickup that somebody actually called in and scheduled, or was it a regular garbage pickup day?
It's my understanding, out to you, Jinkasaurus, it was a regular pickup on Saturday morning?
Yes, routine, but early Saturday morning.
You know, it's, I understand, Ellie, that the 2 little brothers, they're not younger than her, but they're young, that they joined in the search, that they were out in the neighborhood looking for their sister, and that the one little boy, several times out looking for his sister, broke down and just literally fell down crying for Isa, crying for his 6-year-old sister. What do you know, Ellie?
Right, Nancy. One of the neighbors who talked to local media said that his own son went to help the Celis family, one of the brothers, when this little brother, or it's an older brother to her, but like you said, he's still young, was out frantically looking around the neighborhood, thinking she might be, you know, playing somewhere in the neighborhood, running around, looking everywhere for her. And he says that the Celis brother actually just got down on his knees and sobbed a couple of times because they could not find his little sister.
Unleash the lawyers. Kelly Sainin, former prosecutor, Chicago. Pilar Prinz, defense attorney. Kirby Clements, defense attorney, Atlanta. Kelly Sainin, what do you make of the fact that they're already in the home with a search warrant, yet they go get a second search warrant to continue the search of the home? That legally is very probative.
I agree with you. I think it's very important, and it leads me to believe that they definitely suspect foul play, and they think something happened inside the house to this girl.
What about it, Kirby?
I would have to say the same thing. I think that by getting a search warrant, what they do is they prevent any challenges down the line to overly aggressive police behavior because they had a judge to rule on it. But it does give rise to the fact that they are ruling no one out as a suspect.
Kirby, let's give an example. For instance, cops in a car, let's just say they're chasing a car due to exigent or breaking circumstances. You don't have to have a warrant to stop a car. But say you look in the trunk and you see a box, a trunk, in the trunk, a suitcase, and it smells. A lot of times you get a warrant to open that container, because while you can look in the car for weapons, you can't start opening containers. What I'm saying is it's a search beyond the initial search, a search that is beyond what's covered in that first warrant. Agree or disagree?
Oh, no, I agree. And even if you look at a house, if a resident gives consent to search the house, that consent is limited to where they said you can search. You can search the living room. That means you can't look in the bedroom. So by getting a warrant, it opens up the entire house to the police to search.
Kirby. Crazy talk. Pilar Prinz, have you ever seen a warrant for a home that says we can just search the bedroom? No.
Well, sure, Nancy. I mean, you don't know what the initial warrant was, so we haven't seen it.
Have
but
you
here's what bothers me.
You've never seen a warrant that says we can just search the bedroom, because they never say that. So that's not what happened. Something else happened that required them to get a second search warrant. Does anybody that graduated from an accredited law school and passed the bar on this panel disagree?
Nancy, it goes back to
No,
your
you're
point
right,
when you
Nancy.
said the
You're
police
right.
look in it goes back to your point about where they search in the car, but if they find the trunk, that they want to look in the trunk. So it may be that this warrant, the first one they had, was too limited, and they found other places that they wanted to search not covered by the first warrant.
Okay, Kelly's saying done. Take Kirby Clements to school. Explain to him what we're talking about.
No, you got to listen to what I said.
I think
Nancy.
you're right. I think that it's
consent.
absolutely more general. No, you said that if there's only one room, then they would go to a different room and they'd need a warrant. And you're right on that. But no family's going to say you can only come in and use one. And the general search warrant was probably, we need to go and look for something suspicious. This girl is missing. And exactly what you said, Nancy. The dog had a hit and there was something else there that they said, you know what? We need more time and we need more details. We need to be able to inspect certain things. This is very probative in this case. This is uncommon to go back that quickly for a search warrant. Something raised a lot of suspicion in this case.
To Jingasaurus, what can you tell me about the family dogs?
Well, the dogs were supposed to be very vocal. They always barked. Anytime neighbors went by and the dogs would see them, they'd bark. We don't know if the dogs barked after 11 p.m. Saturday night up until 8 in the morning on Saturday.
You know, there have been other cases, specifically the O.J. Simpson case, where the dog Akita began howling and barking in the middle of the night. Recall that, Jane?
Yes, that can be very, very instrumental, a dog barking, because that is incident of something happening, I think, in many of these cases. But the question is, the dogs didn't bark? That is what we believe, but yet the specialized dogs hit on something in the home, and that's what caused that second search warrant, Nancy.
To Kelly Collins, co-owner and trainer of Georgia Canine National Training Center, Kelly, why do they have so many different types of dogs searching in that home?
Well, Nancy, it's hard to say. Honestly, it looks like they've had the cadaver dogs in there. They could have hit on anything, body fluid, anything. They should have had some scent-specific dogs in there, possibly looking for a trail out from her.
What do you mean by scent-specific dogs?
Scent-specific trailing dogs trained to detect the individual scent from her.
To Dr. Michelle Dupree, medical examiner, forensic pathologist, joining us out of Columbia. Dr. Dupree, thank you for being with us. Right now, a landfill search is going on. What, if anything, would they find if Isabel were in this landfill, God forbid?
Nancy, they could find a number of things, really. They could obviously find a body or parts of a body. They could also find clothing. They could find other things that may have been with her at the time of her disappearance.
Joining me, Cheryl Arrett, clinical forensic psychologist. Let's have Cheryl and Erin Runyon up with me, please. Cheryl, I recall Erin Runyon making a public plea for the return of her daughter, 5-year-old Samantha. I still remember it to this day. What could psychologically be keeping Isabel's parents from doing the same?
Well, Nancy, I imagine that this family is absolutely devastated, and I could imagine that they may just not feel as strong as Samantha's mom was here in being able to do that. My hope is that they will do that because it is very powerful, and if they have it framed for them in the way that Erin just did, that this is your chance to be the voice for your daughter and to be able to do something for her to address the helplessness that they must feel, I think that that could make the difference for them to do it.
And Erin, a lot of people are putting the parents under a microscope right now, but that is SOP, standard operating procedure, when a child goes missing. The reality is you can do everything right as you did. I recall the circumstances around Samantha's disappearance, and bad things can still happen, Erin.
Yes, yeah. And I think that, again, it's communication between the law enforcement agency and the family. You know, they were really good with us. They told us that they had to start with that inner circle because 90% of the time the perpetrator is somebody who knows the family. So telling us that made us very cooperative.
As much as I want it, I'm not gonna promise the cold
at which someone could have
It's good to find out who's been near the house before, if there's any workmen that have been there recently, or any unusual people, or even friends have come into the home where they know where that girl's bedroom is and know how they could sneak around into that house.
Who vanished from her bedroom in Tucson, Arizona.
By air and by ground, checking each and every car that went in and out of this East Side neighborhood.
When her father went in to wake her up so that they could start their day, found that she was not in her room at that point.
Family, friends, and co-workers continue to be vigilant, doing whatever they can to help the family.
We have a window that was open and a screen removed. We're labeling it as suspicious circumstances and a possible abduction.
More questions than answers at this hour in the search for 6-year-old Isabel, apparently taken out of her bedroom window. A window open, the screen removed from the window. Tip line 520-882-7463. Right now, cops refusing to describe what a dog hit on in the house, reluctant, refusing to talk about who put the child to bed, whether the mom checked on the little girl before she went to work the next morning. I've got even more questions out to you, Paul Birmingham, KNST. Was she at school on Friday? I understand she goes to Academy of Tucson Elementary.
That's right. She goes to Academy of Tucson Elementary School, which is a charter school. At this point, police are not saying whether in fact she was at school on Friday. That's a question that's been asked again. They are keeping a number of things very close to the vest in this investigation. That is one of the things that they're not able to provide an answer for, though we would love to know.
That is not giving me a good feeling. Kelly, Pilar, Kirby, it's hard to read the tea leaves. We could be completely off track, but to not release that she was in school as normal on Friday, that's extremely unusual. Don't you think so, Kirby? I mean, come on. Before you were a defense lawyer, you and I tried cases down the hall from each other, prosecuting. Something, I don't understand why they're holding back simple details like why was she in school? Who put her to bed? Who checked on her first thing in the morning? I don't get it, Kirby.
No, that's a huge red flag because, quite honestly, it almost sounds like they're insinuating that something happened to the child on that Friday to keep her from going to school and that this whole event is staged on Saturday morning. It gives you that impression. Now, I can't say that's the fact.
It does, and we absolutely have no evidence of that, Pilar. But by not releasing a simple fact like that, I mean, every schoolmate's got to know whether she was in school or not, Pilar.
Nancy, I think it would be pretty easy information for us to find out outside the police. I agree, it does seem very strange. And especially when you look at the statistics, when you look at the total number of child abductions in our country, it's such a small percentage are non-family.
And Kelly Sandin, that is a lot easier. It sounds easier than it is. We've called the elementary school. They won't tell us. Cops won't tell us. Very quickly, Jake Asaris, what about the family cars?
The family cars. Well, we believe that they've been searched. We believe they are part of the law enforcement investigation. But back to the school for a minute. Kyron Horman, remember in Portland, Oregon? There was an issue. He went to school, was taken out of school. Kyron Horman. There's more to this story, Nancy.
You know what, Jane? You're right. I was racking my brain trying to remember when was it the child didn't report to school, and it was Kyron Horman. You're absolutely right. Out to the line, Sue in Georgia. What's your question, Sue?
Yes. Now, I have a question about the family dogs.
Right.
What kind were they? Were they Dobermans or German Shepherds or watchdogs or anything like that?
What do we know, Ellie Jostad?
Yeah, Nancy, we don't know right now what type of dogs those were. We have talked to neighbors who said they had 2 dogs. We're trying to follow up with them and find out what kind. But, Nancy, another thing police said that they are holding back is whether or not the family or neighbors reported hearing dogs barking that night.
Good point. Good point, Ellie. Beth in Missouri, what's your question?
Yes, I love your show. Thank you for having me on. Did the father take a lie detector test, and were the dogs inside or outside, or were they locked up in a cage?
Good question. Paul Birmingham, do we know if the dogs were inside dogs or outside, and has anybody taken a lie detector?
At this point, these, again, the million-dollar questions, they're not being answered by Tucson police. What types of dogs, how many, whether they barked that night or not, and also the question about the polygraph. Again, these are things that at this point they're simply not saying to us.
Well, another thing, to you, CW, it may be too soon, or is it too soon for them to take a polygraph? I mean, if my child was missing, I don't even know what I would do. I guess I'd be running up and down the street like a crazy person. But I can't, maybe they can't get their mind straight to go to the cops and take a poly.
Well, as an investigation starts out, it isn't just one line going down the sand. It spreads out, so you have the searches of the house, the landfill. I would have those parents, by now, I would have boxed both of them. I would have polygraphed both of them. It's very important. It's not, admissible in court, but if somebody tubes a polygraph, if something happened to the twins and I polygraphed you, you'd be fine. But if I've had parents responsible for the death of their child and they fail the polygraph, when you're speaking about Kyron Horman, remember the stepmother, who's the prime suspect, failed that polygraph bad.
You know what? You're right. You're right. Tammy in Maryland. Hi, Tammy. What's your question?
Hi, Nancy. I'd like to tell you we all love you here in Baltimore, Maryland. And God bless you and your family. Thank you. My question is, the family dogs, I would think that if they barked, they would have woke the family up, number one. And if they didn't, that would be a red flag that it's someone the dogs are familiar with. Right.
Sources have told us they did not, Tammy in Maryland.
So they didn't. Okay, so my thing is, have they questioned any of the other family members at this time?
Okay, Gingosaurus, what do we know?
They are keeping the investigation close to the vest. They are calling everyone a person of interest.
Shot that we've got. If this is one of the dogs, I guarantee you that's an inside dog. Gingosaurus, you're familiar with this neck of the woods. Dogs typically not outside there, but this is not a rural area.
No, I wouldn't think that a little dog like that would be kept in the outside, but even so, wouldn't it bark even more if there was an intruder at the window that was abducting little Isabel? But this is a dog that's a yappy dog. I mean, that's a dog that's going to bark.
Everyone, cops are asking for this tip line to be publicized. 520-882-7463. There is a reward in the search for little Isabel. Please